The U.S. Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce was established in 1912 when President William Taft asked for a group in the business community to work with the government on issues involving business. There is high speculation that it was created in response to the increasing talk of unions at the time. While this was its original purpose, the Chamber was mildly involved in politics until 1998, endorsing just a few candidates each election cycle and only endorsing large bills and initiatives. However, in 1998, when Tom Donahue came to power as both president and CEO of the Chamber became increasingly conservative and involved in politics. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce is the largest lobbying organization in the country when it comes to yearly spending. It represents people and business. The Chamber advocates for policy that creates jobs and promotes growth for the economy. The Chamber also lends informational and legal help to its members while also lobbying on Capitol Hill. The Chamber believes that American business can solve people and society's problems while also creating growth. It aims to create a better relationship between people, business, and the government. The group uses neither alarmist or emotional language to get people to join or follow the Chamber's activities. Instead, it uses what I can only describe as forcefully informative language. The Chamber is so well known that it does not have to do much to recruit members. In terms of the number of members it has, it claims to represent over 3 million businesses. However, when further questioned in 2010, they revealed that they truly only had 300,000 businesses that were members at the national level. Meanwhile, the rest of the 3 million were entities in state and local chambers, which are not the same as the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. In terms of costs and benefits, there are 4 levels of membership. The lowest for small businesses can cost as little as $250 a year, with many benefits including briefings and FedEx discounts. Meanwhile, the highest level groups are the Chamber of Commerce Committees of 100 and the Association Committee of 100, which are by invitation only and come with a twice annual resort trip with some of the country's most powerful CEOs. Regardless of membership level, the Chamber communicates with its members with newsletters, policy briefings, virtual events, and in person events. In terms of mobilization, there are yearly meetings for members of the Chamber, as well as year round events for people to attend. The most famous ones being the meetings of the Chamber of 100 and the Association of 100. Given the power of many high up members of the Chamber, mobilization is not an issue. In terms of elite councils, certain elite members are part of committees, task force, or councils on certain issues. Given their more active role in the chamber, these members mobilize on a much more regular basis to work on these committees. Before the chamber's highly political era, the chamber supported the creation of the Federal Trade Commission in 1914, and during the Great Depression, it supported the Revenue Act. In 1994, it supported the North American Free Trade Agreement, and during the Clinton administration, it supported Bill Clinton's healthcare plan. In terms of legislation after 1998, it was against most of Obama's legislation policies, but however, it was in support of the American Recovery Act in 2009. The Chamber was also against the Kyoto Protocol and the Paris Accord, both involving climate change. The Chamber's tactics for passing pro business legislation came from endorsements of candidates they knew they could rely on for support, through ad campaigns, and through direct lobbying. The current Chamber's agenda includes immigration, energy, legal property, COVID-19, and jobs. In terms of whether or not the group's claims of success are credible, the group has managed to keep business as the most powerful group in the US government and has also managed to shoot down most liberal legislation that would work against them. Before 1998, the Chamber did very little political spending and gave a large percentage of what they did spend to Democrats. Starting with the Tom Donahue era, the Chamber began to spend more money on elections and began to endorse a much higher majority of Republican candidates. However, they did still endorse a few Democrats in every election cycle. However, things greatly changed because of Donald Trump in 2016. The Chamber refused to endorse him because they fought on almost every issue across the board, even under Donahue's conservative leadership. In 2020, the Chamber endorsed 24 freshman Democrats for re-election in the House, resulting in a revolt from the GOP, driving a split in the business community. The largest individual recipients in 2020 were Mitch McConnell and Joe Biden, two very different people. There was no money given to President Trump. In fact, the Chamber had so much animosity towards Trump that it co-led a bipartisan initiative to ensure election results would be upheld, and after January 6th, they even supported the removal of Trump under the 25th Amendment. In the 2022 election cycle, the chamber supported Pennsylvania Senate candidate Dr. Oz in what many people think as an attempt to make peace with Mitch McConnell after 2020. The Chamber of Commerce has a pretty obvious role in the Iron Triangle, being the largest lobbying group in the country. The Chamber gives both informational and electoral support to members of Congress so that they vote on legislation that is favorable for business. In terms of the bureaucracy, members of the Chamber of Commerce are some of the most powerful executives and CEOs in the world and have very direct connection to the bureaucracy that some people view as way too powerful. In general, the Chamber just has a vast amount of power because of its resources and connections to the government. For 20 years, the Chamber has played a role in campaigns to shut down pro-environmental legislation. Fossil fuels and other industries tied to business interests have spent years attempting to quell public concerns over climate change in order to protect corporations. This is not surprising given that the board of the Chamber has many energy executives on it. In 2009, several large companies decided to leave the Chamber, such as Apple, Starbucks, and Costco, over their lack of climate change action. In 2019, after lots of criticism, the Chamber changed its stance on climate change, saying it would welcome legislation as long as it preserved U.S. jobs and would even be willing to reduce greenhouse gas emissions with more evidence. However, despite these words, the Chamber has still lobbied against legislation since then. Both Republicans and Democrats in the House have said that they want to investigate the Chamber. The Republicans say this because the Chamber has endorsed ESG criteria, which they say is going to result in favoring foreign energy companies over American ones. Meanwhile, the Democrats want to investigate to see if the Chamber has violated any lobbying disclosure laws. Other criticisms include the insinuation that the Chamber lobbies on behalf of specific companies, pursuing whatever politics would result in the most funding. Donahue has been called too aggressive in spending, resulting in the Chamber being $26 million in debt in 2018, despite the peak in fundraising. There's also criticism that the Chamber has had a long history of wrongdoing, with members paying a total of $154 billion in penalty for law-breaking violations since the year 2000. The other biggest criticism has been about how the Chamber brands itself as a defender of small businesses, but in reality, mainly just defends corporations. In 2010, the Chamber claimed that 96% of members were small businesses, but the board at that time only had 6 small businesses serving on it and 111 large corporations. A list of members and donations is not publicly available, but a vast majority of members do not seem to pay any dues, while just 74 businesses pay 60% of the Chamber's fundraising, with the average private donor giving a whopping $122,000, making the Chamber reliant on private donors. Overall, criticisms for the Chamber of Commerce have grown rapidly in recent years across the aisle.